Hi there, it's Miss Deans here. Well done for making it this far. This is the final task for our Mission to Mars project, and your task is to work on a solo talk, a persuasive solo talk, based on everything that you have done so far. I hope you're excited about that. I know solo talks are things that people can sometimes get a bit nervous about, but let's have a little look at what you need to do, and hopefully that will make you less nervous. Here is the plan for what you should include in each of the sections of your talk. You'll see from looking at it that there are 5 sections: an introduction, a conclusion, and 3 sections in the middle. I'm going to go on in a minute and talk about each of these sections in detail. First of all though, you might be thinking, how am I going to deliver this talk when I'm at home? Well, ideally, when you come back to school in August, you'll deliver it in front of the class then, and you'll also be able to present your poster. However, there's nothing to stop you delivering your talk before then to family members or someone in your household. You could even go to the park now and deliver your talk to somebody who's not in your household if you really want to. This would be a really good way of preparing for your talk and practicing the skills that you're going to need as you go further forward in English. And I would love to hear from you about how that went on. I'd also love to see some pictures uploaded with all of your planning as well. Now, the introduction for your talk is your opening. In this section, you're going to give the background to the mission. You're going to explain what the planet Mars is like. You should have information on that already. You're going to explain what will be involved in the training and getting to Mars. You're also going to try and use 2 different persuasive techniques here. Direct address. That's when you address the audience directly. You might say something like, "We need you to go to Mars." Or the power of 3. That's when you use a list of 3 examples. There's a famous quote, "I came, I saw, I conquered." For some reason, 3 examples just seems to work a bit better than 2 or 4. This is what you should include in your introduction. Try to avoid starting with, "My talk is about," or "I'm going to talk about." Try and instead start off in a way that's going to get the audience's attention. You might want to look at some TED Talks on YouTube or on the TED Talk website to get some ideas. You can always just go through and watch the first minute or so of each one to see how people start their talks. After your introduction, your first main section is going to be about adventure. You have to persuade your audience that signing up to go to Mars would be an amazing adventure that no one would want to miss out on. So you should explain that if they volunteer, they're going to be the first person to ever set foot on the red planet. They will see and experience things that no other human has ever experienced, and they will be at the forefront of scientific and space exploration. So that means they'll be among the very first to find out new things about science and space. As you are talking about all of these points, you should try to weave in and include emotive language and rhetorical questions. So, emotive language means using words or phrases that would make your audience feel a particular emotion, make them feel a particular way. In this case, you're trying to persuade them to want to go to Mars. So you are probably going to want to use words and phrases that would make them feel excited about going to Mars, or give them a sense of wonder about the red planet. Rhetorical questions are questions that you ask where you're not actually expecting an answer. If you give a question during your talk, you're not expecting an audience member to shout out with the answer. So you might say something like, "Why would anyone want to miss out on such an amazing opportunity?" That's the type of thing that you want to try and include here as you're going through. Your next main point is about world renown. Now, if you are renowned for something across the world, you are famous because of it. So here, you're going to persuade your audience by explaining that as one of the first people to ever visit Mars, they will be renowned and admired by everyone on Earth. So you might want to think about famous astronauts that you've heard of, people like Neil Armstrong. Fame and adulation will come because of their bravery. Adulation means being admired, so people will admire them because of how brave they are. Some techniques that you should use in this section are say again, where you repeat an important point, and exaggeration. Now with exaggeration, we're not lying, we're not saying anything that isn't true, but we're just going a little bit over the top. So for example, if you've ever said, "I'm starving," when what you mean is, "I'm hungry," or everybody when what you mean is most people, then you've used exaggeration. And this is a good technique to use here. Now, your next section is called Opposing Point Undermined, Leaving Earth Behind. When you undermine an opposing point, what you're really doing is explaining why people who disagree with you are wrong. So some people might say that you shouldn't sign up and go to Mars because you would have to leave Earth behind and you'd be lonely. And you have to say why those people are wrong. So, most people would be worried about leaving their family behind and never seeing them again. That would be normal. But you have to try and underplay this or downplay this. That means you have to make it sound like it's not such a big deal. So you're going to want to emphasize the communications that they will still have with Earth. So talk about different ways that they could still keep in touch with people back home to make them not worry about this so much. You could also highlight that travelling back to Earth could be a possibility in the future. Now, we don't know for sure if that's possible, but you could include some information that suggests that it might be possible to try and persuade people not to worry so much about leaving Earth behind. So techniques to use here, well, undermining opposing views is a technique, and that's what you're doing in this whole paragraph. So it's not something you need to do separately. But you should also try and use more emotive language. So again, emotive language, you're trying to make your audience feel a particular way. In this case, you're trying not to make them feel sad about leaving Earth. You're trying to make them feel reassured about going to Mars or excited about going to Mars. Think about words and phrases you can use that would make your audience feel that way. Finally, we have our conclusion. When you're concluding a solo talk, you want to do it in such a way that at the end of it, you could drop the mic and saunter off stage. It should be a really powerful way to finish. It's your final chance to convince your audience that they should move to Mars. You're going to have to use all of your persuasive powers to convince them that moving to Mars would be the best decision that they would ever make. So think about everything you've learned so far and think how you could use that to achieve this. You need to emphasize all of the positives. That means play up all of the positives and downplay all of the negatives. That means make it seem like the negatives are not such a big deal. And you should use as many of the techniques that you have learned about so far as you can. Now, when you've done all this, then you have prepared your talk. I will give you another couple of pieces of advice. You don't have to write your talk out word for word. Usually we recommend that you don't, and instead you make notes in different pieces of card, maybe with bullet points. However, if you do want to include some full sentences, that might not be such a bad idea, particularly if you're trying to work in persuasive techniques. I would suggest that you take pictures of your talk that you're preparing, of your notes, and upload them so that your teacher can see them. When the whole talk is done, it should be between 3 and 5 minutes long, and you should try and deliver that to a family member or a member of your household and get them to time you and maybe give you any other feedback. You'll know from further down the school that when you're giving a solo talk, you want to include lots of eye contact. You want to have a good stance, stand up straight and not fidget. You can use hand gestures as well to really emphasize your points. And you want to appear confident. That's very important. You don't have to actually be confident. Lots of people are very nervous when they're giving speeches, but you want to try and look confident to your audience. Thank you for coming this far. I really hope you've enjoyed this project, and I'm really looking forward to seeing and hearing about what you come up with. If you have any questions at all, please contact your teacher.